I'm back. This is unscripted, and I don't really know what I'm going to say, but let's find out. So, the title of this is What Emotions Actually Are. So, I was thinking, what would be the coolest thing I could share with you guys that I have learned so far? And yeah, just kind of going to summarize it real small. As small as I can, because it's actually pretty hard to explain. But yeah, so let's get into this. So, have you ever had a day where you were kind of frustrated, and when you're frustrated, all these problems are coming at you, and you're like, "Oh God, it just won't stop." And when you're in a state of frustration, the world kind of seems like it's just problems everywhere, and it's just like, ah. And then there's other days or moments where you feel happy and free and light, and the world is just so nice, and you're just like, wow, the world is amazing. So, like, obviously the world hasn't changed at all, right? It's only your perception of it, but our perception is powerful, apparently. Let me move this a little bit. So, yeah, just hold that idea in your mind for a bit. So, like, think about what your current emotional state is. There's a bug over there. Think about what your current emotional state, how that's affecting your perception of the world. Like, the tinted glasses kind of deal. So, where should I go on this? I don't know what the best way to take it to. So we kind of think that our mind works like this. So it's like there's a situation, an external situation, and we are perceiving that situation through our senses, and our perception goes into our brain, and there's a little calculating and crunching and stuff, and then it says, bam, this is how you feel about this situation. So it's like, someone cuts you off in traffic, and you're like, cutting off in traffic, that's a frustrating thing. It's like, frustrated, or whatever. So, and then based on your perception, like, whatever your brain calculated that is, you might react. So you might, like, scream or do something with your hands, you know what I mean? But it seems that beyond that, we don't have any capacity to change our emotional state until that that situation is dealt with externally. Okay, so yeah, that's sort of like how the majority of us, probably like everyone-ish, thinks that this is how this game works. But ponder this idea for a second. So I drew a diagram here. I don't know if you can see it. It's not really a good diagram. I drew it a long time ago, but I like to show things to the camera. So that's the brain, right? And that's a hand. That hand. Wait, what does this say? Feeling. Okay, let's start there. Circumstance. So you experience a circumstance, and then you have a certain feeling about that, and then you're like, I got to do something about this, because, like, if it's not a good feeling, then I need to change it. And then you have that hand over there, and that represents you doing the changing thing. So that's the current kind of view that we have on all this stuff. But now take that idea of how your feeling state can influence the way that you are perceiving the world, and think about this idea. So this one's at the bottom. Oh, okay. can't see that. Okay, so that's your brain, or whatever, thoughts. Let's just call it thoughts. And then you got, this is backwards for me, by the way, so I can't really see what I'm doing. So your thoughts and your feelings are sort of doing this, like, back and forth. So, like, in a sense, you can sort of see it as feelings having a momentum to them. So, like, let's say you're thinking a frustrating thought, and you feel frustrated, and then that sense of frustration will bring about more frustrating thoughts, which will, so on and so forth. And then think of the mind. Oh wait, that's not brain, because it's backwards. It looks like brain. Wait a second. Hey, that's so cool. It looks like the same. Oh, that's because it didn't say brain at all. Anyway, it literally looks like, I actually thought it said Brian, or I thought I wrote Bryna, because backwards that's what it looks like. Anyway, it makes more sense. Mind makes a lot more sense. That was silly. Anyway, so mind. So think of your mind / feelings actually being more of a projector to your external circumstances. So it's not so much that you're absorbing the outside world and your feeling is reflecting that, but rather that the outside world is reflecting your feeling state / like your thoughts. Okay. Long pause. Okay, so in that sense, I didn't actually think what I was going to say after that. Yeah, so if you were to see your thoughts as more the driving force behind your experience of life, then it kind of, you have more power that way, because you can be like, instead of pointing at this thing and being like, that thing is causing my feelings and I need to change that thing, you could say, well, that thing is coming from my thought, and I can change my thoughts. And when you change your thoughts, you sometimes change your feelings. So, yeah, I think so. Yeah, okay. So basically, this sort of like, it's sort of like an illusion that we kind of fall into. It's like your thoughts are creating this situation, and then that situation looks so real. So it looks real and it feels real because that's your experience. And then because it looks real and it feels real, you think it's real, and then you're like, this is actually going on. Like, all this stuff that I don't like is actually going on, when it really just might be going on in your thoughts. So if you think of emotions and feelings and thoughts more in that way, then it kind of becomes clear that emotions are more of a guide to your thinking. So it's not so much that they are responding to external situations, but they are just responding to your thinking in the moment. So it's like, if you're thinking a frustrating thought, your feelings you're gonna feel frustrated. But the situation that you perceive outside, if you can see that as just your thoughts being projected, then you know that your emotions are just kind of guiding your thoughts towards better feeling thoughts, right? So it's like, yeah, like, in that sense, like, that saying, like, love is eternal, love being like a state of, I mean, I don't know, but like that good feeling, that feeling of freedom and like happiness that we're all seeking in one way or another, I mean, most everyone, I guess, is available to you right now if you're willing to let go of the idea that your circumstances exist independently of your thoughts. So if you can let, okay, wait, think of like radio channels. So like when you're frustrated, the world is a frustration station, and when you're happy, the world is like full of light and love and happiness and whatever. And you know, when you're angry, it seems like everyone's against you or whatever. So if you can see that as like, okay, you're experiencing something frustrating, that's not an indication that you need to like deal with this frustrating thing. It's more an indication that you're tuned into the frustration channel. So your emotions are basically giving you this like live feedback. That's like, dude, what are you doing? Like, and that's why I feel it's like you have a hot stove, right? You have a hot stove and you put your hand on the hot stove and it goes tss. Like, imagine if you just kept your hand on, you're like, oh man, I gotta fix this. I gotta fix this problem. And it's like burning your hand, right? That's similar to the way that we're dealing with our reality right now, because, you know, there's this like emotion, this frustrating emotion, and it's responding to your thinking in the moment. It's saying like, this is what you're creating right now with your thoughts, because you're a free thinking human being and you can think whatever you want, you can perceive whatever you want, you can hallucinate whatever you want. So it's responding to that. So if you can see like an emotion of frustration as sort of the same thing as that feeling of pain when you touch a stove and you immediately like take your hand away, then the next time that you encounter a problem, you can just, like, the moment you feel that frustrating feeling, you let go of that thought, because that's a hot thought. It burns you. So and then you let go of that thought and the problem is gone. Kind of. I mean, like, it takes a little bit of it takes some faith on your part, because obviously, like, if you're like truly invested in the externality of your thoughts projection, then you are not going to believe that when you stop focusing on a problem, either it'll fix itself or it'll disappear. You're still gonna think it's still there. You're gonna think that you're ignoring reality. But if you can see that, if you can consider that maybe that problem, or the idea that you had to solve the problem, like you have to fix it, if you can let go of that, or if you can open yourself to the possibility that that just might be a hallucination, just like, you know, we're all kind of hallucinating our own personal realities, and some people are hallucinating things that are totally scary, and some people are hallucinating, you know, you might see a shadow and get scared, right? And even though that might look real to you, someone looking from the outside will be like, oh, that's obviously just a shadow, right? So if you can see how, like, you know, some of the issues that you face in your day-to-day life are just like, maybe just, you know, just a thought. Maybe it's just your thinking is like kind of out of whack, and they just kind of go away, or like, you know, it's not a big deal if you don't focus on them. Then you can start to like let go of focusing on all those external things that like create that feeling of frustration, even though it's like the frustration feeling being projected or whatever. Like, you let go of that, then that's replaced with another thought, and that thought feels a lot better, and you're like, oh wow, like, oh, relief, like, oh, I don't have to be frustrated. Because we think that in order to solve certain things, like you gotta be frustrated and just like power through it, right? But like, what if your feelings are just like a hyper intelligence that's like you don't really understand, and they're not indicating what's happening outside. They're indicating how you're to what degree you're they're indicating the quality of your thinking in the moment. Ooh, nice insight. I think that's it for this video. If you guys got any questions or something, or if there's something that you're like kind of curious about or want me to clarify, I love having people ask me questions, because then it's like, oh, I know where you guys are at. And yeah, cool. Peace.